Hello and welcome to the Gain Line, Wales Online's live rugby debate show. My name is Matt Southgoon and I'm your host today, and I'm delighted to be joined by rugby writer Mark Orders to discuss Wales's team to face Ireland on Friday, named at midday, just over 20 minutes ago, by the Welsh national squad. Mark, we'll jump straight to it, and we'll flash the team up as well for our viewers to take a look at. What are your initial reactions to this team that Wayne Pivac has named to face Ireland?
I know there's been a clamour for changes, but I think Wayne Pivac felt this was the best side to face Scotland before Justin Tipuric pulled out. And evidently, he still feels that's the best 15 he can put on the pitch at this time. I'm not 100% sure of the fitness of the likes of Josh Navidi and Ross Moriarty. I assume, that if those guys were fit and ready, then they might have come into contention. I understand that Rhys Webb isn't quite ready after his knee injury, so Gareth Davis sort of continues. I guess it's just Wayne Pivac sending out a message to the players. Look, this is your opportunity to redeem yourselves after the pretty miserable performance, really, against Scotland. And the expectation would be, it is, that there'll be wholesale changes for the game against Georgia, when I think Pivac will look at that as an opportunity to really experiment. But for this game, he's going with the side that he feels at the moment is the best available to him. And I know there's certainly a lot of people who would, shall we say, beg to differ on that point.
You touched on it there, Mark. Obviously, the same team that was named to face Scotland. One man didn't make that game. Justin Tipuric pulled out with tonsillitis. He's overcome that to take his place in the starting lineup this weekend. How important is that for Wales? What does he bring? Obviously been one of Wales's top performers in the last sort of 2 to 3 years. Obviously, a big boost to get him back in the side.
Oh, he's an outstanding player. In 20, 30 years' time, people still be talking about him as one of Wales's all-time great players. I think with Justin Tipuric, he's been brought in to sort of strengthen the defence and add his expertise at the breakdown. He's just, it can barely be overstated how good he is and his worth for the Wales setup. I think that maybe Wales have missed a beat in not sort of offering him a bit more support at the breakdown. I think I would have liked to have seen Sam Parry in there. Instead, he's nowhere to be seen in the squad. When Wales played Australia, if you rewind to 2018, it was an important game. They'd had a run of defeats against Australia, which seemed to date back to the Old Testament, if you like. And they brought in Nicky Smith at loosehead prop because they were up against Hooper and Pocock, and they wanted more of a breakdown threat. And I think Dan Lydia played in that game, and Nicky Smith provided that support for Tipuric, and Justin had a great game. He was man of the match. They sort of met the Hooper Pocock challenge, and I think that perhaps it would have been a smart move, maybe, to, I don't know, just add to the breakdown sort of threat by maybe picking Sam Parry at hooker. Sam is really good over the ball. Or maybe upgrading Nicky Smith, but Nicky doesn't seem to have had much of a look in this tournament or in this run of internationals. But yeah, for sure, Matt, Justin Tipuric is going to make a difference. World-class players always do.
Yeah, we've touched on it at the start as well. Obviously, with the same team being named, David Lee's commented that he's gone for the old Warren Gatland ploy of asking the players to redeem themselves. What sort of, are we reading too much into this, or is it the case of you got us into this mess from Pivac, you get us out of it?
Oh, well, Gatland used that ploy really, really effectively, didn't he? I remember, I think it was Wales lost to Ireland, and people forget Gatland was, I wouldn't say he was under pressure, but there was a time when critical voices were sounding in Wales after a few years without silverware. And I remember they lost badly. I think it was against Ireland, and there was a lot of pressure. And again, there was a clamour for changes, and people were eagerly awaiting the selection. And I think, again, Gatland might have said same again to the side, or made possibly one change. And he defended that position by saying, yeah, as David says, this is an opportunity for the players to redeem themselves. And those players did go out and sort of do the job. But Gatland warned them beforehand, look, and he sent the message out to the public as well. Look, this is a chance for people to sort of show their good side and really show what good players they are. But if they don't take it, I think I could funny feel he said it'll be the end of some Wales careers. And we're rapidly approaching, really, quite a serious position with Wales as well. It's affecting the coaching staff. We've already seen a change this week, and 5 straight wins isn't great, and so the players kind of need to respond, because the question is whether Wayne has picked the right players in the first place, and that's a matter for debate.
5 straight defeats, of course. If we were talking about 5 wins, we might be having a different conversation altogether. There's been a few comments about the back row coming in. Callum Dillon suggesting that Ollie Griffiths should have been called up to provide a bit of a back row bully, and it sort of responds to an earlier comment from Geraint Scales saying that Wales are missing a back row bully and they're better with a bruiser at 6. Now, Ollie Griffiths, of course, is probably a little bit hamstrung by the fact that the Dragons are all in self-isolation at the moment, having been shut down for 2 weeks following a spike in coronavirus cases within their camp. So it's unlikely that any players from there would be called into the squad, obviously, because everybody's in a bit of a bubble in the Wales camp at the moment. But is there a point in there, Mark, that Wales are lacking a bully, to use Geraint's word there, in the back row? And I guess is Josh Navidi that guy as well?
Josh is a fantastic player. He's great over the ball. He's got an appetite for doing unglamorous work. Always puts his body on the line. I wouldn't call him a bully as such. I do think maybe Wales do lack that kind of player, but certainly the man who would provide extra physicality would be Ross Moriarty. What I will say is that I haven't completely sold all my shares in Taulupe Faletau. I know he hasn't sort of reached the standards that of late that we've expected and seen of him over the years. But maybe it's just a question of building up to that, and he's overdue a good performance. And I haven't completely given all hope. He doesn't fit that sort of template, if you like, as a bully. All I know is that Ollie Griffiths has been playing well, albeit over 2 or 3 games for the Dragons. But would it have been a little bit of a gamble for Pivac to put 2 exceptionally young players into back row with Shane Lewis-Hughes and Ollie Griffiths? And Ollie Griffiths is not that big himself, even though he is a very, very physical specimen. That back row with Justin Tipuric might have been, I don't know, would it have been a bit short on experience perhaps as well with those 2? And possibly it might have been a bit lightweight as well. So, maybe that's why they've stuck with Faletau. I'd say, I haven't completely given up on him, and I'm sure other people haven't as well. I think he's still a good player and he's due a good performance. And, from a Welsh perspective, let's hope that happens on Friday night.
Talking of gambles, then let's move on to look at the bench a little bit. And Callum Sheedy, finally, in many people's views, will get his chance. He's on the bench, set to make his debut for Wales. What do you make of that? There's been calls for this a lot over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. You touched on it against Scotland, that Wales could have had Dan Carter at fly half, and it might not have made much difference. Is Dublin a very difficult place for him to be making his debut in that sense?
No. It would have been horrendous. It would have been horrendous. Look, the best bet I think will be. I'm sure he'll make his debut. I think he'll come off the bench. I think he'll enjoy a successful international career. But Wales are under real pressure at the moment, and international rugby is so much quicker and so much more intense than anything that Callum Sheedy would have experienced, even European rugby and rugby in the English Premiership. The Test game is a cut above, and so I think they've stuck with Biggar, who's 78-yard cap. There's nothing about this game that's going to surprise Biggar, and they're in a difficult position. They kind of need a win as well, so that's why they've probably resisted throwing Sheedy into the fray, directly into the fray. But he will make his debut, you'd expect, off the bench, and I'd expect him probably to start against Georgia a week later. He's clearly a good player. He's one of these guys who always seems to have a bit of time on his hands, and he looks quite promising without overdoing it, because I haven't seen enough of him. Seen him having a handful of games for Bristol, and he looks quite good. But as I say, it is a step up. So let's see how he handles it if he comes on this weekend.
And just looking at the rest of the changes on the bench, because it's kind of where, given the way the starting team's panned out, it's a little bit more interesting than the starting side in many ways. You've seen Elliot Dee coming in for Sam Parry. You see Samson Lee recovering from his concussion problems to take his place as a replacement tight head. George North's also on the bench, but I think arguably the most interesting one perhaps is Jake Ball coming in for Corey Hill. Corey Hill is a very well-respected player in the side, and not so long ago was being billed as a future Wales captain. Is this maybe a recognition that Wales have lacked that sort of punch and ballast that has been talked about a lot over the last fortnight?
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on there with Jake Ball's selection, really, because Jake Ball is also a good scrummager. And I remember the Scarlets played the Ospreys in Swansea a couple of years ago, and Jake Ball, they were well on top in the scrums in the first half. Jake Ball left the field at half time, and the tables completely turned. I remember Wayne Pivac saying at the post-match press conference how good a scrummager he felt Jake Ball to be. So Jake Ball offers that, but he also offers a presence around the field. And I just think that Wales, like the regions, had really had difficulties in securing quick ball. And they've definitely missed Ken Owens and Jake Ball's ability to sort of play opposition jacklers off the ball and to sort of get possession back quickly. I think Ball is really, really good at that. He was good at the World Cup, and he was good in the Wales Grand Slam season. He sort of hits those rucks like a rocket, really, and plays people off the ball. And Wales have lacked that. He's strong. He does provide a presence. So that is a useful sort of option to have on the bench. I think that I think it's right as well. Mind that Will Rowlands, they've had a look at him in the side. You can't draw too many conclusions from one game. A guy enjoying his first start. So I guess Wayne wants to see whether Rowlands can how much Rowlands can contribute. For Wasps, he's been a really good ball carrier. He's 6'7", 6'8". He should pack a line-out presence. So I guess that explains that one. As I've said earlier, I'm mildly surprised that Parry is not in the starting lineup, let alone on the bench, and he's not even on the bench. So I don't know if he's picked up an injury in training, or simply if Elliot Dee has been playing better than him in training, or training better than him. I think Samson Lee has been brought in. I think he's a solid scrummaging option. I don't know about impact around the field. Wyn Jones, you could see how much impact he made as a scrummager when he came on for Rhys Carey against Scotland. There was an immediate improvement. Where are we? And George North, well, myself, Might have been harsh on the halfpenny, but I would have been tempted to pick Liam Williams at full back and use George North on the wing, because I think George North, I think opponents, I think they when they face North, and they don't know what they're going to get, if truth be told, because if you get the guy who struggles to get into the game, well, that's great for an opposition team. But if you get a guy who switched on as North was against Ireland in 2017 in Cardiff, and when he's on his game, he is a sort of frightening prospect, North, and a real asset, and opponents a guy opponents might even lose sleep over. And I just think he offers something. He offers an attacking threat. Ireland have got a young wing in Hugo Keenan, and James Lowe's on the other wing, a really talented player. I just think that maybe George North running at them would have offered Wales something, and with Liam Williams then in attack, and we know what Liam can offer. Maybe all that's a bit harsh on Lee Halfpenny, but yeah, that would have been a personal preference.
There's been a few. George North is somebody who attracts a lot of attention these days. There's been a few comments in the stream as we've been going, asking why Louis Rees-Zammit is not involved in the side. Obviously, he pulled up with some issues with his shin. Wayne Pivac thought he might have a dash of shin splints after the France game. So it's understood he's recovered from that. What do you make of his sort of non-selection, Mark?
Oh yeah, again, I just think that Wales have put so much pressure on themselves, really, by underperforming in recent weeks, and they didn't exactly go well before the lockdown. They're on this losing streak at the moment, and they're under scrutiny. Basically, the coach is under scrutiny as well, and they need all the experience they've got, and they need players like Liam Williams, and they need players like Josh Adams. It's really, really competitive, in fairness. Those two that I just mentioned are world-class players. And so I think Louis Rees-Zammit's opportunity will come. I think it'll come against Georgia. It wouldn't surprise me at all a week later. He's clearly a good player. He's very, very quick. And some people would have considered his selection a breath of fresh air, I'm sure. And maybe it would have worked. But at this moment in time, I think Wales have boxed themselves into a little bit of a corner, and they're just relying really on proven sort of test performers. And in fairness, they have got a number of those, haven't they, with the 4-back-3 players they've picked. So that's what I think there. I think his opportunity will come. I think he'll have a really good test career like Sheedy. I think at the moment, though, the pressure is such that Pivac is sort of falling back on tried and tested.
All right, then, Mark. We're going to have to start pushing towards our conclusions soon, because Wales are holding a press conference at 1:00. But before we do go, let's almost cut to the chase a little bit. It was a grim performance, to say the least, against Scotland. Not a lot of positives to be taken from that. There's been a big inquest in the last 2 weeks, as there always is at times like these in Welsh rugby. The question on the post to this stream is, can Wales win in Dublin? The answer, it seems, by a lot of our viewers, is a strong no. Do you give Wales much chance of going out to Ireland and getting a result? It's not been a happy hunting ground for Wales in recent years. But that being said, Ireland didn't set the house on fire against France either.
No, look, I mean, everything points to an Ireland win. If you over this season and last season, you look at regional rugby results, you look at how Wales have been playing, everything sort of points to an Ireland win. But you kind of you can never really be certain in a 2-horse race. Wales got quite well beaten, really, by Ireland in Cardiff in 2015 in a World Cup warm-up match. And 2 weeks later, Warren Gatland took them to Dublin. And Tipuric had the game of his life, really, and was man in the match. And Wales got the job done out in Dublin. So, surprises do happen. But I don't really see it. You'd probably be looking. You're probably looking at an Ireland win by, I don't know, a dozen points. I think Wales will be really up for it. There were a lot of criticism, and that's going to count. I just think, in certain areas, they've got a few players there really who maybe are not proven at test level, and it'll be a bit of a challenge for them. But you never rule anything out. But if you're a man, you wouldn't be putting your house on Wales. That's a sure thing.
All right,
how do you see it going, Matt?
Similar way to you, I guess. I don't think there's any way that you could, with any real confidence, suggest that Wales would be anywhere near favourites for this game. They've not really shown anything in the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks to suggest that they're capable of causing Ireland problems. A lot of their issues obviously stem from the forward pack, which is typically where Irish sides are very strong. I was out in Ireland a few years ago and saw Wales, I think it was 2018, Wales sort of manhandled and outmuscled in a way that I'd not seen them in years previously. That's what this Ireland forward pack are capable of doing. And we see it with Leinster and Munster all the time. If they get into your 22, 9 times out of 10, they leave with points. We know the Wales defence coach has bitten the dust this week, but there hasn't been an awful lot in attack either. So Wales are under pressure there, but it starts up front. I saw some quotes from Mike Ruddock that the game has evolved so much over the years, but the fundamentals remain the same. And, you've got to secure a set-piece ball. It has to be a good platform. And it's a lot easier to play when you're on the front foot, and that starts with your big carriers and your forward packs. And I hope, for Wales' sake, that they've found a way in the last fortnight of generating that momentum. Because if they can't put the Irish defence on the back foot, it's going to be very difficult for the Welsh backs to get going. I don't mean to paint such a gloomy picture, but it's difficult not to see Ireland winning on Friday night.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, and I would say just briefly, really, what Wales really need is a lead from their senior players, and they need the likes of John Davis, Talupe Faletau, Alan Wyn-Jones, Justin Tipuric, Liam Williams, Lee Halfpenny. I'd include Dan Biggar in that as well. They need those guys to report for duty. If they do that, you never know. But yeah, I would incline towards the same view as you, Matt, that it all points to being a challenging evening.
All right, nice one. We'll leave it there. Sorry to end it on such a gloomy note, but unfortunately that's the way it is at the moment. Thank you guys for your comments at home. As we've touched on now, Wales are holding a press conference shortly, and then it really does all start to build up towards Friday night when Wales take on Ireland. You can catch all the updates from that press conference on Wales Online. We'll be back on Facebook on Friday, looking ahead to and reviewing the game after it happens. Of course, stay tuned to Wales Online for all the latest rugby news.